Welcome to the CompTIA A Plus Core 2 course, your gateway into the world of IT support and troubleshooting. In this course, I will walk you through all the key topics you need to know for the latest CompTIA A Plus Core 2 exam, based on the CompTIA Newest exam objectives. This course is beginner friendly but packed with essential skills you will need in real IT roles. To make learning easier and more engaging, I have included clear visuals, diagrams, and step-by-step breakdowns throughout the course, helping you understand complex concepts quickly and confidently. By the end, you will be ready to pass the exam and take your first step towards a successful career in IT. Let's get started. So welcome to our CompTIA A Plus Core 2 course, and this is the latest edition of this course. And our domain number one is operating system, and as you can see, it is the largest domain and carries a 28% weightage of the overall course. And our objective 1.1 is explain common operating system types and their purposes. So workstation operating system, these includes the Windows, of course, the most popular, and it is the most common OS, and it has wide hardware and software support, and it is also used in enterprise. The next most common operating system is, of course, the Linux. So as opposed to Windows, Linux is open source, Windows is proprietary by Microsoft, and Linux is open source. It is customizable, means the organization can customize Linux and spin up their own flavor of Linux as per their requirements. It is more secure since it is open source. Its code can be analyzed, reviewed by security researchers all over the world. That's why it is more secure. It is mostly used in the servers inside data centers and by developers on their workstations. And the next one is the macOS, and of course, it is limited to Apple devices only. It is also a stable operating system, and it is mainly optimized for creative and productivity work. And our last workstation operating system is the Chrome OS. So this one is lightweight, and it is focused on used for cloud application, and it mainly runs web application, and that's why it is popular in education sector. Next is the mobile operating system types, and the first one is the iPad OS. So again, this is proprietary Apple OS, and it is used by Apple tablets. It has the multitasking features, stylus support, and productivity applications. Next one is again the Apple proprietary iOS, and it is used by the Apple smartphones, and again it is more secure, stable, and has a strong application ecosystem. So more secure than what? Than its competitor Android. And the after the iOS and iPad OS, we can say that the most popular or the common mobile operating system is the Android. And again, as opposed to the Apple operating system such as iOS and iPad OS, Android is open source. Again, it is customizable, and vendor can customize operating system as per their own devices and requirement. And it has a wide devices variety as opposed to the Apple only iOS, and it is most widely used. So this is the most common and most widely mobile operating system. So now coming over to various file system types, and the first one is the NTFS, and this one is used by default inside Windows. So it support permissions, encryption, and large files. So remember, the key thing to remember is that NTFS is used by Windows. Next one is REFS. So this one is used by Windows, but Windows Server, and it has high resiliency and large scale data.
support. Next one is the FAT32. This one is older file system, and since it is older, it is widely compatible, and it has a limitation of 4 GB file size. So this is important point to remember. Next one is ext4, which is the common Linux file system, and it is reliable and has the journaling support. Next is the XFS, which is a high performance, again, Linux file system, and it is good for large files. And the next one is APFS, which is used by Apple devices, and it is optimized for SSDs. SSD is the storage type that is solid state drive, and it also has the encryption support. And the last one is XFAT, which is used by cross platform, and as opposed to FAT32, it supports large files and is used in flash drives and SD cards. So now coming over to our next topic, which is vendor life cycle limitations. So end of life, what is end of life? End of life is when vendor stops selling and supporting their product, and plain upgrades are replacement before EOL to avoid security risk. So the user or the customer or the organization need to plan upgrades or replacement of the devices before EOL to avoid security risk. What is the security risk with EOL device? Since we said that the vendor no longer support these devices, it means that vendor will no longer release security patches for these devices. Therefore, beyond EOL, these devices are vulnerable and has security risks. For example, Windows 7 reached its end of life in January 2020. So anyone using Windows 7 beyond that, even in 2025, will have the security risk and security vulnerabilities because Microsoft is no longer releasing security patches for this particular operating system. So what are update limitations? So older system may no longer receive patches or feature updates, as I said the previous para. So transition to supported versions to maintain security and functionality. For example, iPhone older than iPhone 8 cannot get the latest iOS updates. So the update limitation is for all those devices that are no longer supported by the vendors. That's why you organization or the customer needs to transition to newer version and newer devices. So what are some compatibility concerns between different operating systems? These concerns include the compatibility between file systems. So some operating system cannot read, write certain formats. For example, Windows cannot natively write to ext4, which is a Linux file system. So this is a compatibility concern between the Linux and Windows. Next is the application compatibility concern. So program may only run on their native operating system. For example, let's suppose an application such as Final Cut Pro only run on Mac OS. This application may not be compatible with other such as Linux and Windows operating system. Drivers and hardware compatibility issues. So devices may lack drivers across operating system. For example, some printers don't have Linux driver. So each hardware drive have drivers for a particular operating system. For example, a printer may work plug and play inside Windows, but when you plug in it in a Linux operating system, Linux may not have drivers for this particular printer by default, so you may encounter this issue, compatibility issue. File sharing, so different operating system handle permission and sharing differently. For example, macOS versus Windows file sharing protocol. So of course, both these operating systems use different type of file sharing protocols. Coming on to objective 1.2, which is given a scenario, perform operating system installation and upgrades in a diverse environments. So what are some boot methods? First one is the internet based. So you need to download and install operating system directly from the web or online using the internet based method, and it is best used for lightweight devices and side cloud setups when you need to download your operating system or application from the cloud. For example, Chrome OS recovery or Mac OS Internet recovery. For example, these two operating systems can be recovered from internet online. Next is the external or hard swappable drive. So this is also a boot method. So you can boot your operating system from external hard drive. This may be HDD or SSD. And it is best used or best use case scenario is portable OS testing or recovery. So you can test a portable OS on these drives, or you can also recover your operating system that is available on these drive using external drive. For example, booting macOS from external drive. And next one is the internal hard drive that is partition. So this is used commonly by dual boot or for system recovery. Dual boot means that you have two operating system inside your hard drive and you have thus dual boot. You can, for example, use Linux such as Ubuntu and Windows operating system on a same laptop using the dual boot. Or you can also recover if your operating system is corrupted, you can recover it from an operating system that is available on your internal hard drive. For example, Windows plus Linux in dual boot mode on a system. Another boot method is through the most commonly used through USB. So it is a bootable installer on flash drive and it is commonly used for OS installation and upgrade. For example, installing Windows 11 or Windows 10 from USB. Another method is the network or PXE boots. So in this case, you boot your device from network server and it is used in large scale enterprise deployment, for example, PXE imaging labs or offices. And the last one is the solid state flash drives. So booting your operating system from SSD or flash media, it is used for fast portable OS boot. So remember, SSD is faster than HDD. So commonly we have an SSD drive inside our workstation such as laptop or PC, and on this laptop, on this particular SSD, we install our operating system so that it boots fast, because we have to boot our operating system every time we turn on our system. So installing your operating system on SSD will reduce the boot up time. For example, running Linux live from SSD. So this SSD can be internal or you can also use an external SSD drive. And the last is the multi-boot, which is again multiple operating system on the same system, and it is used when you want to run different operating system on one machine such as Linux and Windows on your laptop, as we already uh, studied in our previous slide. So now coming over to types of installations, and the first one is the clean install. So clean install means fresh OS installation, and in this case all your previous data is deleted or wiped out, and it is used for new system or when you have major issues with your operating system which is beyond repair or recovery. For example, installing Windows 11 from USB on a new PC or on an old PC where you want to delete all the previous data and install a new fresh Windows. Next method is upgrade. So this one keeps the previous or old file and applications but replaces the old operating system, and it is best used when you are moving to a newer version of operating system without your data loss. For example, you are now, let's suppose, currently running Windows 10 and you want to move on to Windows 11, so you can do this through upgrade. So in this way your old file and application will remain intact and your Windows will be replaced from Windows 10 to 11. And the next installation type is the image deployment. So this is a pre-configured operating system image which is copied to multiple devices, and it is commonly used inside enterprise environment and when you want standard configuration. So you make a standard operating system with your required configuration. You make an image of that operating system, and then you distribute this image to all the devices, and in this way you have standard or the same configuration or all your devices inside your enterprise. For example, deploying Windows image to all your office PCs inside an enterprise. Next installation type is the repair installation. So you reinstall the operating system core files, but you keep the old data and application, and it is best used when you have corrupted system files, and you can fix these corrupted system files through repair but without wiping your data. For example, you can use Windows repair your computer option to repair your corrupted operating system. So some other consideration that is third-party drivers. So ensure that the hardware such as network or storage works after installing your new operating system. For example, loading RAID or SATA drivers during Windows setup. Another method is the remote network installation. In this method, the OS is installed through a network, and it is basically used inside centralized IT control and large scale installation where you have multiple devices, and you can use this method by centralizing installing Windows on all the devices through a centralized server. For example, as we already studied, PXE boot installation in different organizations. Another method is the zero touch deployment. So this is again a fully automated install and without any user input, and it is used in large enterprises that needs fast rollout. For example, Microsoft Intune or SCCM deployment. And the last option is the recovery partition. So this is a hidden partition with OS recovery tools inside your system, and it is used for quick restore without requiring any external media. For example, factory reset on your laptop. So what is partitioning? So we have the GUID partition table, which is GPT. Partition means dividing this your main drive into different partition or drives such as C, D, and E. So this GPT or GUID partition table, it is the modern scheme using globally unique identifiers, and it supports large drive sizes that is greater than 2 terabyte, and it also supports many partitions. For example, Windows 11 requires the GPT partitioning on UEFI systems. Next partition method is the master boot record or MBR. So this is an older method, and in this method the boot info is in the first sector, and it has the limitation that you can partition the hard drive to only 4 partitions, and the drive size limitation is that they are less than 2 terabyte. An example of MBR is installing Windows XP on a BIOS only PC. So what is the drive formatting or drive format? So this formatting uh, prepares partition for use by the operating system, and it erasing existing data and set up a new file system, for example NTFS or EXFAT. Upgrade consideration. So what are the things that you need to keep in mind while upgrading your operating system? The first one is to backup files and preferences. So this prevents data loss during your operating system upgrade. Next is the to keep in mind the application and driver support or backward compatibility. So you need to ensure that old application and drivers work with the new operating system. Next is the hardware compatibility. So you need to verify that the CPU, RAM, storage, they meet the requirements of the new operating system. For example, when you are upgrading to Windows 11, Windows 11 need TPM 2.0, that is hardware requirement. And feature updates means that the new Windows may add security patches, bug fixes, or new functionality. So these are basically tied to the product life cycle. So support period that is defined by the vendor. Next is the objective 1.3, compare and contrast basic features of Microsoft Windows editions. So first of all, Windows 10 editions. First one is the Home. So Home Windows edition includes basic features for customers and consumers. It does not include the domain joining facility or feature, and it also does not include the BitLocker encryption facility. Next is the Pro version. So this version adds features like BitLocker, remote desktop connection, and domain joining. And then Pro for the workstation, which is optimized for high-end hardware such as server, and it supports more CPUs and faster file systems such as REFS. Next is the Enterprise Edition, which has the advanced security and manager and include features like App Locker, which is a security feature, direct access, and Windows Go-To. So as you can see, as we are going from home to enterprise, the features and advancement in the edition is increasing. Now coming over to Windows 11 editions, again the first one is Home. So again this is the standard consumer version and it requires Microsoft account setup. Next is the Pro version, which include business features such as BitLocker, remote desktop connection, Hyper-V, and domain join. And the next one is then the Enterprise, which include the enterprise level security and deployment, and it can be purchased only via volume licensing. So some feature differences among different versions of Windows, such as domain versus workgroup. So what is domain and what is workgroup? So the Pro and Enterprise edition of Windows, these PCs or workstation having these version can join the domains, while the home edition is limited to workgroup only, means the home edition of Windows cannot join the domain. Then some difference between desktop style and user interface. So Windows 10 has a start menu with live tiles, while Windows 11 has a standard centered start and modern user interface. Remote desktop protocol, that is RDP. So Pro and Enterprise allow the remote host connection, while the Home edition can only connect as a client. It means that you cannot connect to the Home Windows edition using RDP. And some RAM support limitations. So the Home edition support less RAM as compared to the Pro and Enterprise edition. So, for example, the Windows 10 Home Edition has the limitation of 1 to 8 GB of RAM, while the Pro and Enterprise Edition can have RAM of up to 2 terabyte. Again, BitLocker. So, BitLocker is the feature that has the capability of full disk encryption, and this feature is available in Pro and Enterprise Edition, but not inside Home Edition. gpedit.msc, which is the group policy editor, and again it is only available in Pro and Enterprise edition and not in Home edition. So what are some operating system or Windows upgrade paths? First one is the in-place upgrade. It means to install new operating system over the existing one while keeping the old files, application and setting. For example, upgrading Windows 10 to Windows 11 without wiping or formatting or deleting the data. Then we have the clean install, which is the fresh operating system installation after wiping or formatting the drive. Example include reinstalling Windows 10 from a USB to fix a corrupted operating system. Some hardware requirements. So trusted platform module or TPM chip. This is a hardware chip that is included in modern system. And so this is a security chip for encryption, authentication, and secure boot. Example is that Windows 11 requires TPM 2.0 for installation. So without TPM 2.0, you cannot use or install Windows 11. Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, that is UEFI. So modern replacement, this is a modern replacement for BIOS, and it supports secure boot, larger drives, that is GPT as we already studied, and faster startup time. Example include Windows 11 requires UEFI with secure boot enabled. Objective 1.4, given a scenario, use Microsoft Windows operating system features and tools. Excuse me. So the task manager features. So the task manager has different tabs, as you can see. And the first one is the services. So in the services, we can view and manage running Windows services, such as we can start, stop, or restart different services. Next is the startup feature, which enable and disable programs that launch and boot. These are the programs that start when you boot up the Windows. Then is the performance. Here we can see the performance tab. So this monitors CPU, memory, disk, network usage in real time. Then when we have the processes tab, and in processes tab we can see active application and background processes, and we can end the unresponsive task. And then the users. So in users tab we can view the logged in users and resource usage per user. Next is the Microsoft Management Console snap-in, that is MMC, and this includes the event viewer. It can be accessed in the run using this shortcut eventviewer.msc. So this has the system view, security, and application logs. Next snap-in is the disk management, which is this can be accessed via diskmanagement.msc, and using this you can create, delete, resize, and format different disk partitions. Then we have the task scheduler. It can be accessed using this task schedule.msc, and it automates tasks to run at set time and events. Then we have the device manager, and it helps in managing hardware devices and drivers. And then the certificate manager, so it helps in managing digital certificates that can be used for authentication as well as encryption. Local users and groups, so it can be used to create and manage local users and groups. And then performance monitor, so this tracks system performance metrics in detail. And then group policy editor, that is gpedit.msc. It can be used to configure advanced system and user policies, and this feature is available in Pro and Enterprise edition of Windows only. Some additional tools include the system information, that is msinfo32.exe, and this feature displays detailed system hardware and software configuration. Resource monitor, it monitors real-time CPU, memory, disk, and network usage. System configuration, that is msconfig.exe, and this configures startup options, boot modes, and services. And disk cleanup utility, so this frees disk space by removing the temporary and unnecessary files. And the disk defragment feature, which optimizes the file replacement on HDDs to improve the performance. Registry editor, that is regedit.exe, which directly modifies Windows system registry, and it can be used for advanced troubleshooting. Objective 1.5, given a scenario, use the appropriate Microsoft command line tools. So the CMD is the main command line tools that is available in Windows. So navigation, and for navigation we can use the cd command or the change directory command. For example, using cd documents moves into the document folder or change the directory to the document. Then the directory, using the dir command, list files and folders in the current directory. As we can see here, we have run this directory command and it has listed all the folders and files in the current directory. Now coming over to some network commands. First one is the IP config, which shows IP address, subnet mask, and gateway, and it is used for troubleshooting network connectivity. As we can see here, we have run this command IP config, and using this command, we can see that it shows us the IP address, subnet mask of different network adapters. If you have multiple adapters, then it will shows the IP address and setting for each adapter alone. So this one is the virtual box adapter, and this is my main Ethernet adapter. Next is the ping command, very popular among the network as well as system administrators. So this tests the reachability to another device, and it is used to check if the host is online. For example, if you want to check whether the google.com server is alive, you can use check this using the ping google.com, and it will show you if the reply comes from the server, it verifies that the server is alive and reachable, and it also shows other information such as the delay from your machine to the server, as well as some other features such as the TTL, which is time to live. And we will discuss this if required in the coming slides. And it also, at the end, it also gives a summary of the average latency, maximum, minimum, etc., and the packets that has been sent and the packets that were received by the server, and if there were some packets that were lost during the transition. Next is the net state command. So this displays the active network connection and ports, and it is used to detect suspicious or open connection. So as we can see, if you run this command, it will show you the open connection between your PC or your local IP address and the remote or foreign address. Next is the NS lookup. So it is used to query for DNS queries, and it is used to resolve host name into IP address. For example, you can use NS lookup google.com, and it will return this IP address for this google.com host. Next is the trace RT. So this traces the route packets, the route that packets take to the destination, and it is used to identify where the connection failed. So using this command, it shows you all the router that are between your machine and the destination host, and it shows you all these are basically the IP address of the intermediate router. So if there is some issue in the network, the packet will be stopped at certain point. Let's suppose if our network is unavailable beyond that point, then we need to work beyond that point and see that why these devices or network is unavailable. Path ping, another useful command, and this command combines the previous ping plus trace RT command, and it gives us detailed hop by hop statistics. So it is used to diagnose network latency or packet loss. As we can see here, we have used the path ping command, and it shows the hops like in trace RT, but it also gives other detailed information such as latency for each hop and other useful information that can be used when diagnosing network latency or packet losses. Now, some disk management commands. The first one is the check disk. So this is used to check disk for errors and repairs file system issues. For example, check disk C drive fixes errors on C drive. So the F flag is to fix error. So here I have run this check disk command, and as we can see, it has given the warning that I haven't used any parameters like this, and then it runs a detailed diagnostic and shows any error that may be with my disk. Next is the format. So this prepares a partition with a file system, that is, it formats or erases all data on the partition. For example, format D /fs ntfs, format drive D as ntfs file system. Again, this command has can be used with these multiple flags and features. This part is advanced tool to manage disk partition and volume. For example, disk part list disk shows available disk. As you can see here, I have, first of all, you go to the disk part command line, and here, if I use the command list disk, it will show the disks that are available on my system. So I have two disks, and one is of about 1 terabyte, and the next one is of 232 GB. So this one is SSD on which my operating system is installed, and this one is the main HDD which I use for the storage. It also gives other information, the partitioning types, etc. Some file management commands. So the first one is the md or make directory. So this command creates a new directory or folder. For example, md projects creates a new folder named project. So remember, the md or mkdir, they both perform the same task. You can either use md or mkdir. Next one is the remove directory or rmdir. So this one removes a directory, and the direct must be empty unless using s. So if you simply use rm directory, it checks whether the directory is empty or has some files inside it. So it must be empty. If it is not empty, then you should use this flag. For example, remove directory /s test deletes the test folder as well as the content inside the folder. So again, the remove directory and rd, they perform the same function. Next one is the robocopy. So this is robust file copy tool with advanced option, better than the copy or xcopy command. For example, robocopy d data d backup mirrors data folder to the backup folder. Now some informational commands. First one is the host name. So this command simply displays the computer host name, as we can see over here. It is useful to confirm device name in the network. Next one is the net user. So this lists local user accounts or manages them. For example, net user Alex shows details for user Alex. And next one in the WinVer or Windows version. So this shows Windows version and build number. For example, useful to confirm operating system version for compatibility. So when you use this command in CMD, it does not show information over here. Rather, a new Windows pops up or open up, giving you the required information. Next command is the whoami, which displays current logged in user and their domain. For example, this command can be used to confirm the identity in multi-user environment. What does this mean? This means that in environment where multiple users may be logged in onto a system, you can use this command to make sure that which user is currently logged in. And this command -help, and using any command, for example, this, let's suppose this, it displays the help and syntax for a command. So for example, ipconfig / shows available option for ipconfig. It means that if you want to know different option or information about specific command, you can type the command followed by space / and ? And it will show you detailed information about that specific command. Some OS management commands, and the first one is the GP update or group policy update. So this refreshes group policy setting immediately instead of waiting for the default refresh cycle. For example, GP update force applies all new policies instantly. Next is the GP result. So this one displays the resultant set of policy for user or computer, showing which policies are applied. For example, GP result /r shows applied policies. SFC or system file checker, it scans and repairs corrupted or missing Windows system files. For example, SFC /scan now checks install protected system files and repair if needed. Objective 1.6, given a scenario, configure Microsoft Windows settings. So Windows settings include the configuration and usage. And these settings include, the first one is the internet options. So the purpose of these settings are to manage browser and internet settings inside your Windows. And you can configure home page, privacy and security level and proxy settings inside these internet options. For example, configuring a proxy server for corporate network access. Next configuration setting is the devices and printer. These settings can be used to manage connected devices and peripherals, and you can use these settings to add printers, set a default printer and view connected devices. And this can be used in a scenario where user needs to install a new network printer. So next is programs and features. So the purpose of program and features usage is to manage the installed application and software. And programs and feature basically allows to uninstall the applications, change them or repair some program and enable different Windows features. For example, you may have a scenario where you need to remove an application that cause problem or that crashes the Windows, so you can remove this application using these programs and feature. Next is the network and sharing center. So the network and sharing center can be used to configure the network connection, and it can be used to set up new connections, change the adapter settings and troubleshoot network issues. For example, you can change the IP address of your system through network and sharing center. You can give a static IP to your system, or you can set it to automatically gain IP address from a DHCP server. Next is the system option or system configuration. So it can be used to view the system information and tune different performance settings. And its tasks include checking the Windows version, renaming the computer, and configuring the computer remote access. For example, you can enable the remote desktop connection or the remote settings so that your computer can be accessed by IT support remotely. Windows Defender Firewall. So Windows Defender Firewall can be used to control the incoming and outgoing traffic, and this allows and blocks different application, and you can configure different rules through this Windows Defender Firewall rules and policies. For example, this Windows Firewall can be used to allow a custom port for a server application, either inbound or outbound. So next is the mail. So mail is used to manage email profile and accounts, mainly the Outlook, and it can be used to add and remove different accounts, change the server settings and profile, such as here. For example, it can be used to set up an exchange email account for a new user. Next is the sound setting. So it is used to manage audio devices and setting, and it can be used to set default speakers, microphone, and configure the playback sound and recording. And it can be used to troubleshoot a scenario where there is no sound coming from the speaker, and you can troubleshoot this issue by switching the default playback device. So next is the user accounts. So user accounts are used to manage the Windows user profiles and credentials, and they can be used to add or remove users, change the user password, and configure the UAC. For example, creating a standard account for a new employee. This can be done through the user account feature. Device manager is used to manage hardware and drivers for different devices. So its tasks include updating the drivers, disabling and enabling devices, and troubleshooting hardware. For example, if you have an issue with a network adapter, you can fix the issue using the device manager by reinstalling the network adapter drivers. Indexing option is used to manage file indexing so that files can be searched faster, and its tasks include choosing the indexed location and rebuilding indexes. For example, improving search performance by adding a specific folder to the indexing options. Administrative tool includes accessing advanced system management tools, for example, event viewer, task schedule, services, and performance monitor. For example, event viewer can be used to investigate application crashes through logs. Next is the File Explorer options. So the File Explorer options can be used to view the hidden files. So it allows enabling and disabling the hidden files and folder, as we can see over here. It is useful for troubleshooting or when certain system files need to be accessed. It can also be used to hide extensions. So by default, Windows hide known file extension, for example, .txt or .exe. So you can uncheck this to always show extension, which is useful for identifying the file types and avoiding malware disguised as another type. So some general options. Let me enable the And so general options include changing how File Explorer opens, for example, quick access versus this PC. It can be configured to be used via single click or using double click to open different items. And general options also include managing privacy settings, for example, recent files or folders shown. This is the general options tab. And we have also the view options, which can be used to adjust advanced setting for folders and file display. For example, showing drive letters, showing encrypted or compressed files in color, and launching folders in a separate process, restore previous folder windows at logons. Now coming over to some power options. So we have different options inside power. First one is the hibernate, as we can see over here. So hibernate saves all open applications and data from RAM to the hard drive and then powers off the PC. So when powered back on, the system restores everything to the previous state. So this is best for laptops when you are not using them for a long time but want to resume where you left off without losing your work. So for example, you are working on something, let's suppose spreadsheet or Microsoft Word, and you want to take a quick break, so you can hibernate your laptop, and when you come back, your laptop will be switched on very fast and your data will also be saved. Next up is the power planes. So there are predefined or custom set of hardware and software settings that manage energy usage. For example, we have these planes balanced, which is the default plane. It balances performance and energy saving. Next one is the power saver. As the name indicates, it extends the battery power, but the performance at the cost of the performance. Performance is low when you are using your PC or laptop in power saving mode. And next is the higher performance, which prioritizes the performance but again uses more power. Next is the sleep or suspend mode. So this option saves the session to RAM and puts the computer in low power mode. It wakes up quickly but drains some battery. So this one is best for start breaks. And the next one is the standby, which is another term for sleep in older Windows versions. So this is essentially this has the same behavior as the sleep. It uses low power and sessions are stored in RAM. So next is the option, what option to choose for when you close the lid. So this option lets you decide the laptop's action when the lid is closed, and the option include you can either select to do nothing when you close the lid of the laptop. You can select the sleep mode, the hibernate, or shutdown. So you can select these of the option when you close the lid of the laptop. So that when you close the lid, you can either select the laptop or your system to shut down, hibernate, sleep, or do nothing. Next is the option of turning on the fast startup. So this combines the hibernate plus shutdown feature for faster boot times. So when enabled, Windows save a part of the system state to the disk at the shutdown, then reloads it quickly at startup. And number 7 is the USB selective suspend. So this pauses power to the inactive USB devices while keeping others active. This saves battery life on laptops and may cause issues if a USB device like a keyboard or mouse does not wake properly. So next, Windows settings are the ease of access and time and language. So first of all, ease of access gives us the accessibility setting for users with disabilities. So you can use this option to adjust narrator, magnifier, on-screen keyboard, high contrast, and closed captions. For example, a visually impaired user may enable high contrast mode for better visibility. Next is time and language. So you can use this option, the time and language, to configure date, time zone, region, and language settings. Speech recognition and input methods can also be configured using this option. For example, a user traveling abroad may change the time zone and may add new keyboard language as per the region. Next is the update and security settings. So these are Windows Update, recovery, backup, activation, and troubleshooting settings. And these settings enable access to Windows security features. For example, an IT admin install the latest security pages using the Windows Update features. Next is the personalization. So personalization features, as seen here, can be used to change the desktop background, themes, lock screen, fonts, and taskbar behavior. For example, a user applying a custom wallpaper and configuring the taskbar to auto hide. Next are the apps or applications. So you can use the apps option to uninstall or manage install application and default applications for different purposes. It can be used to manage optional Windows features and app execution aliases. For example, a user removing a rarely used application to free up disk space using this app feature. Privacy. So privacy can be used to control access to your camera, microphone, location, and background applications. It can be used to configure diagnostics and telemetry data sharing with Microsoft. For example, a user can disable microphone access for all application except Zoom call. So the next setting is about the system. So the system can be used to manage display, notifications, power, storage, remote desktop, and the system information. And again, this is available inside the Windows setting. So for example, a user can change the display resolution for any external monitor through the system. Next is the devices. So devices option can be used to manage connected devices such as printer, scanner, Bluetooth devices, and mouse and keyboard setting. For example, a user can pair a Bluetooth headset with their laptop through this devices option. Next is the network and internet. So network and internet option as seen here can be used to configure your Wi-Fi, Ethernet, VPN. You can change your laptop communication or device communication to airplane mode, proxy setting, and data usage. For example, the IT department may set up a VPN connection for the remote workers using this network and internet option. Next is the gaming option. So gaming option can be used to manage Xbox game bar, game mode, and game streaming option. For example, a gamer may enable game mode to optimize performance during the gameplay. Next up is the accounts. The accounts option is also included inside the Windows setting, and this option can be used to manage Microsoft account, local accounts, work school accounts, sign-in options, and sync settings. For example, a company employee may add a work account to access Office 365 and OneDrive. Objective 1.7 given a scenario configured Microsoft Windows networking features on a client or desktop. And the first setting or topic is the domain joined versus the work group. What is the difference between a computer or a system that has joined a domain versus the other computer that has joined a work group and has not joined the domain? So what is the difference between these two concepts? We will see. So when a computer has joined a domain, through domain, it has domains gives us centralized management through Active Directory or AD. Users can authenticate with domain credential, and policies, updates, and permission are managed centrally by the domain controller. And it is best for medium to large organization. It means that if you have large organization, many employees, many systems, then this option is more suitable because it has a centralized control and you can manage users, their password, their policies centralized through Active Directory. The next one is the work group. So here we can see you can make the computer either part of a domain or a work group. So work group is a peer-to-peer setup with no central management. What does this mean? This means that if you have, let's suppose we have, for example, 3 laptops. So in work group, they are connected directly to each other, let's suppose through a switch. While in Active Directory, they are centrally managed by a centralized server or Active Directory. So each computer manages its own users and password. It means that the user and password are not centrally managed by the Active Directory. Rather, each computer manages its own user and password, and it is best for small network or home use where we have less number of computers and users. Shared resources. So shared resources in a domain giant are shared folders and drives usually on a file server. So if we have domain giant computer, these shared resources or folders can be made available to any number of users that we want. Access is controlled by Active Directory permissions, NTFS, and share permissions, and it is easier to enforce security and access control across multiple users through, again, Active Directory or domain controller. So the shared resources in work group is sharing is done locally on each computer. So you need to manage sharing on each computer alone, not centrally. User must have a matching username and password on the host machine, and it is harder to manage if many systems are involved. So this work group can be done for few computers, let's suppose less than 10, but if you have many computers, then domain is the easier and more manageable option. Printers. So in a domain giant, printers can be shared centrally through print servers, and group policy can auto install printers for users, and permission are assigned based on Active Directory groups. As opposed to domain, in work group, printers are shared manually from one PC. Each user must connect individually using the host computers or host PC's credential. File server. In domain giant, file server are dedicated file server that store and organize company files. Access to these files are controlled by Active Directory groups and security policies, and this supports DFS, that is distributed file system, for redundancy and better file access. In workgroup, file sharing is directly done between individual PCs, and it has limited security and scalability. Mapped drives. So domain giant drives can be automatically mapped through a group policy. For example, user logs in and gets a network drive, let's suppose a Z drive, mapped to a file server or a department. This is easy to manage and can be enforced across all users. In a work group, user must map drives manually using computer name and share, and there is no central way to enforce or manage mappings. So in summary, domain is a centralized, more scalable and secure option, and it should be used for medium to large organization where we have many PCs and many users. While workgroup is manual, it has limited scalability, and it is again used for small scale, such as in a small office or inside home. Next setting or configuration option is local firewall setting. So through local firewall setting inside Windows, we can allow an application through the firewall. So you can explicitly allow or block programs from accessing the network. For example, allowing Microsoft Teams but blocking a game from using the internet. So you can do this through your local Windows firewall. It can be done through the control panel. In control panel, we have Window Defender Firewall, and in Window Defender Firewall, we can allow an application or feature through settings inside the Window Defender Firewall. Exceptions. So exceptions are specific rules that override the default firewall behavior. For example, we can allow remote desktop or RDP protocol, which uses TCP port number 3389 through the firewall. The traffic can be inbound or outbound exception. As inbound and outbound is basically the traffic direction. If traffic is, let's suppose this is your PC, and you want to access, let's suppose, google.com. You type in your browser www.google.com, so you can say this is outbound traffic because you are accessing something outside and traffic is flowing outside. Let's suppose there is another user and want to remotely access your computer, or IT support want to remotely manage your computer through RDP protocol, let's suppose 389 port. So this one is inbound because traffic is incoming to your computer. Again, inside local firewall setting, the configuration, it can be accessed via the control panel. We have the Windows Defender firewall, and in settings, we have the update and security, Windows security, firewall, and network protection. So there are three types of network inside the firewall or your computer. Domain network, it is for business PCs connected to an Active Directory domain. Private networks are trusted home or work networks, and public networks are untrusted networks like airports or coffee shops, internet, Wi-Fi networks. Again, inbound and outbound rules can be configured via wf.msc, that is Windows Firewall with advanced security. Inbound rules control traffic coming into the PC, as I already explained. Outbound rules control traffic going out of the PC. Profiles, so different rules can apply depending on whether the PC is on a domain, private, or public network. And we can also configure custom rules, so they can restrict, you can restrict traffic by port, by program, by IP address, or by protocol. For example, a port can be 3389, program can be, let's suppose, theme application, IP address can be anything. Let's suppose you have this IP address 192.168.100.20 up, and protocol can be TCP. So using all these combination, you can configure the ports. Internet IP addressing scheme. So how we can configure the IP address on our PCs inside Windows operating system. So IP addresses uniquely identify a device on the network. It can be IP version 4, for example, 192.168.1.10, or IP version 6, which is in hexadecimal format. Each device must have a unique IP within the network. What does this mean? This means that if you assign this IP address, let's suppose, to PC1, you cannot assign same IP address to another computer, let's suppose PC2, on the same network. Otherwise, you will have what? IP conflict, and your whole network will be choked. These two PCs will also be unable to work properly. So what is it? So this is how you assign IP address. Then we have the domain name system, or the DNS settings. So these are the DNS settings. DNS basically converts human friendly names, for example www.example.com or google.com, into IP address, and they can be configured manually or automatically. So here you can either manually configure these domain IP addresses, or you can choose this option, obtain DNS server automatically, and you will then your DNS server will be automatically obtained by your PC from the DHCP server. For example, W8.8.8. It is a popular DNS server by Google, and 1.1.1.1 is a free DNS server, public DNS server by Cloudflare. So without DNS, you would have to use raw IP addresses. What does this mean? This means that if you don't have the DNS setting, and then you cannot use these www. In Internet Explorer bar, then you will have to enter the IP address of this website. For example, 200.10.20.20. So it is impossible that you remember all these IP addresses for all the host name and websites. So what is the subnet mask? Subnet mask defines which part of IP address is the network portion versus the host portion. For example, 255.255.255.0 means that 192.168.1.x are all on the same local network. It ensures proper communication between devices. So this is where we configure the subnet mask. So by this, that which part is the network and which the host. So here we can see that this part 255.255.255, this one is the network part, this is constant, and this one is the host part. So this IP addresses can range from 2 up to, from 1, basically you can also use the 1 up to 254. This has, so each this octet has the maximum range of 255, or you can say in the, for the host we don't use the first and the last address, that's why we have the range up to 254. So that's how it works. Gateway, so we also use the gateway. This is the gateway address. So this is the default gateway is the router address that allows traffic to exit the local network and reach the other network like the internet. For example, 192.168.1.1, which is your Wi-Fi router IP in most cases. So static versus dynamic IP address. So static IP is manually set like this one, and it does not change unless you manually change it. Use cases include you give manual IP to servers, to printers, and to routers. And to clients like PC, you usually give them dynamic IP addresses. So dynamic IP address is automatically assigned by DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and in its use cases include most client PCs, phone, Internet of Things devices. Next option is the virtual private network or VPN inside the Windows. So the purpose of VPN is to securely connect to a private network over the Internet. So Internet is a public media. Your traffic can be viewed by anyone when it crosses the internet, such as the ISPs. So for the security, we use the VPN, which encrypt your traffic between your private network and wherever you are over the internet. So the step to configure VPN include by going to settings and then network and internet. We have network and internet, and then the VPN option, this one over here, and then we select the VPN connection. We click on this plus, and then we enter this information to configure the VPN and save and connect from the network list. So these are the options that you can use to set up a VPN. Next is the wireless or Wi-Fi network setting. So purpose is to connect to the local wireless network or Wi-Fi network. Steps include again clicking the Wi-Fi icon in the taskbar, or going to the setting, then network and internet, and then the Wi-Fi. Then selecting the SSD or the available network name, enter the Wi-Fi password, and choosing if you want the PC to be discoverable on the network or otherwise. Next is the wired or Ethernet network connection. So this is the wired Ethernet and this is the wireless Wi-Fi. So the purpose of this setting is to directly connect to the LAN cable connection. So LAN connection are more reliable and have high speed as compared to Wi-Fi wireless network. And steps again include plugging in your Ethernet cable into PC and the other end to the router or switch. So Windows will automatically detect the connection. You can check this by going to setting, network and internet, and again this Ethernet. And if needed, you can configure the static IP addresses and DNS setting, or you can set them to automatically obtain the IP address from the router or the Wi-Fi access point. The next is the proxy setting. So a proxy server acts as a middle point between the client PC and the internet. What does this mean? This means that this is your PC, this is the internet. Here between your PC and your client, the internet, you can configure a proxy server. This is your proxy setting. So it can be configured in again setting, network and internet, and then we have the proxy option, and can be automatic with a script or auto detect or manual entering the IP address and port of the proxy server. It is commonly used in corporate networks for filtering, monitoring and controlling the web traffic. So since this sits between your clients and internet, you can configure setting on the proxy to filter web traffic. For example, you can configure the proxy to block all the social media sites or all the adult sites. Next is the public network versus the private network. So public network is designed for untrusted environments such as coffee shops and airports, and file and printer sharing is disabled inside public network, and firewall is stricter to protect the device. Of course, you are connected to the untrusted environment, so the firewall rule are stricter. Private network, on the other hand, is used in trusted environment like your home and office LAN. So this network allows device discovery, file sharing, and printer sharing, and it has more relaxed firewall rules. Next option is the metered connections and limitations. So a metered connection limits background data usage, and it is used for limited capped internet plans. So it can be configured in again setting, network and internet, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and set as metered connection. As we can see over here, you can turn this option on. The limitation of this option is that Windows updates may not download automatically. Since you have set the limitation on the data caps, cloud backups and OneDrive syncing may pause, and live tiles and application update may be delayed. Objective 1.8 explain common features and tools of the macOS desktop operating system. So after Windows, now we will discuss some features and tools inside the Apple macOS. And first one is the installation and uninstallation of application in macOS. So we have different file types. First one is the .dmg or disk image file. So this is a compressed file that mounts as a virtual disk when opened, and it often contains an application.app and a shortcut to the application folder, and users typically drag the application into the application folder to install it. So this is how you install it. You drag the application into the application folder for installation. Next is the .pkg or package file. So this is installer package used for applications that require a guided installation process. Launching it runs the macOS installer. So when you launch the package file, it runs the macOS installer, which may request admin privileges, and it is common for applications that install additional components or system level tools. Next file type is the .app or application file. So the actual application bundle appears as a single file but is a package of multiple resources, and typically this is placed in application folder. It can be run directly without additional installation. So what is the App Store? We all know, the Apple user know the App Store. So this is the built-in application for browsing, purchasing and downloading software. So the App Store basically handles installation automatically, placing application in application folder, and updates are managed through the application store as well. So what is the uninstallation process? So for .app installed via .dmg or drag and drop. So you can simply drag the application from the application folder to the trash. This removes the main program, but some leftover files such as preferences and caches may remain in the library or slash library. So for .pkg installed application, they cannot be uninstalled by just deleting the app. They may require a dedicated uninstaller which may be provided by the vendor or manual removal of installed component. So for app stored application, you need to open the launchpad, click and hold the application until it wiggles, and then click the X to uninstall the X button to uninstall the application. This removes both the application and related support files. So summary, so macOS supports multiple application installation methods. So .dmg is installed through drag and drop. .pkg or package file are installed through guided installer. .app or standalone application and are they launch the macOS installer when clicked. And through App Store you can manage installation and updates. It automatically installs the application when downloaded. Uninstallation is usually drag and drop to trash for .app application and App Store removal via the Launchpad or vendor tools for .pkg files. System folders in macOS, and the first folder is the application folder. So this is the folder where installed applications are stored, and it contains both the system applications such as Safari, Mail, as well as user installed application. So user usually install application here in this folder so that all accounts can access them. Next is the users folder. So these folders contains folders for each user's account. Each user folder has subfolders like desktop, documents, download, music, pictures, and library. And this folder provides personal storage and settings per user. So users can individually change their setting by changing the setting of the folder inside these folders. Next is the library folder. So this folder stores system-wide resources used by application and the operating system. It includes fonts, application support files, and preferences files. So this folder basically affects all users on the Mac as opposed to the users folder. System folder contains the macOS system files and frameworks, and it is highly protective, so users should not modify it because it may affect the overall operating system. And this folder houses critical components for macOS functionality. Next is the users library folder. So this is a hidden folder inside each user's home directory, and it stores application preferences, caches, and support files for that specific user. For example, Safari, bookmarks, mail data, and custom settings. So summary, the application folder contains the installed applications. Users folder contains user related data. Library folder contains shared system-wide resources, and system folder contains core macOS files, while the user library folder is hidden per user application data and preferences. Next topic is Apple ID and corporate restrictions. So what is Apple ID? Apple ID is used to access iCloud, App Store, iMessage, FaceTime, and other Apple services. So it syncs personal data such as contacts, photos, and documents across multiple Apple devices. And it enables Find My Mac for locating or logging a lost device. So what are corporate restrictions? So organizations often use mobile device management or MDM solution, for example, Jamf, Intune to manage Mac's devices. So restrictions can include disabling personal Apple ID sign-in, blocking App Store downloads, enforcing password policies, remote wiping or locking devices, and controlling Wi-Fi, VPN, and security settings. So the purpose of corporate restrictions are to ensure data security, compliance, and device standardization in overall business environments. What are some best practices for macOS? First one is the backup. So use Time Machine, which is built in macOS for automatic hourly, daily, and weekly backups. External devices or network storage are common destination for these backups. iCloud Drive or third-party backup solution, for example, Carbon Copy Cloner, can provide redundancy. Antivirus. So while macOS has built-in Xprotect and Gatekeeper to block malware, extra antivirus may be recommended in enterprise settings. So third-party antivirus adds proactive scanning and enterprise-level reporting. Updates and patches. So keep macOS and applications updated for security and performance. Updates can be set to install automatically or managed via the mobile device management policies. Rapid Security Response or RSR. So Apple's newer feature for quickly deploying urgent security fixes without waiting for full OS updates. RSR patches are small, installs quickly, and often do not require a full reboot. So these are critical for responding to zero-day vulnerabilities. Some system preferences. Displays. So displays can be used to adjust screen resolution, for example, retina scaling. It can be used to set brightness and night shift for eye comfort. Manage multiple displays through extension or mirror, and change refresh rate, which is useful for ProMotion or external monitors. Network. So configure networks setting can be used to configure Wi-Fi, Ethernet, VPN, and Bluetooth connections. It can also be used to set up IP addressing either static or DHCP, and manage DNS and proxy settings. So prioritize which network connection macOS should use. These settings can also be changed inside the networks. Printers and scanners settings can be used to add and remove printers and scanners. Set a default printer, adjust printer settings such as duplex, paper size, and printer quality, and scan document directly into applications or files. Privacy and security. So these settings control which application can access the camera, microphone, location, and file, and enable the firewall, that is full disk encryption, manage firewall settings, and approves application downloaded from the App Store or identified developers. Accessibility are the tools to help users with vision, hearing, motor, or cognitive impairments. So features include voiceover, that is screen reader, zoom magnifier, dictation, and switch control. It can also be used to adjust display contrast, cursor size, and subtitles. Time Machine is built-in backup tool for macOS. It automatically backup files, application, and system settings to an external drive or network storage, and it allows file and system restore from different points in time. Some features. So the macOS include multiple desktop or spaces feature, which lets you create and switch between different virtual desktops, helping organize applications and workflows. Mission Control provides an overview of all open windows, desktop, and full screen application, making it easy to switch between them. Keychain is a built-in password manager that securely stores passwords, Wi-Fi keys, and certificates. Spotlight is a system-wide search tool to quickly find files, application, email settings, or perform quick calculations and web searches. iCloud is Apple Cloud service for syncing and storing data across multiple Apple devices. iCloud include iMessages, which can be used to send and receive messages across iPhone, iPad, and Mac. FaceTime is used to make video and audio calls via Apple devices. And iCloud Drive is used for cloud storage to store files, documents, and backups. Gesture is a multi-touch trackpad gestures like pinch to zoom, swipe with three fingers, etc. for fast navigation. Finder is a file manager in macOS which can be used for browsing, organizing, and accessing files, applications, and connected drives. While dock is quick access bar at the bottom or side of the screen for launching or switching between apps. Continuity is integration feature between macOS and iOS devices. So it is a handoff that is start an email on iPhone and finish it on Mac. Universal clipboard copy on one device and paste on another. AirDrop, wireless file sharing, and call SMS relay that is make receive calls on your Mac. Disk utility, which is a built-in tool for managing storage drives and volumes. Functions include formatting, partitioning, repairing disk, and creating disk images, and is often used to fix corrupted drives or prepare an external disk for use. File Vault is macOS full disk encryption feature. So it uses XTS AES128 encryption with a 256-bit key to protect all data on the starter disk. It requires a password or recovery key to decrypt and access data, protecting files if the device is stolen or lost. Terminal is the command line interface for the macOS, and it gives advanced user direct access to Unix-based system functions. It is useful for automation, system configuration, and troubleshooting beyond the GUI. Force quit is used to close unresponsive applications, and it is accessible via command plus option plus escape or through the Apple menu. Unlike quit, it immediately ends the application, which can result in unsaved data loss. Objective 1.9 identify common features and tools of the Linux client desktop operating system. So some file management commands in Linux, and first one is the ls that is used for listing files. So it displays the content of a directory and shows detailed file list with permission, size, and timestamps, such as this one. So as we can see here, it only shows the files, but you can use other flags with this ls command to show the other features such as permission, size, and timestamps. PWD, that is print working directory or present working directory, it shows the current directory path, such as this one. And MV, that is move or rename files. So the move command is used to move files between directories or it can also be used to rename them. For example, move followed by the file name followed by the directory and followed by the next directory. So this followed by this path home slash lx desktop. So this command will move the x files to desktop, and move old name.txt to new name.txt means that this file will be renamed as this. So move command can be used to move file. Remember, it is different from copy. The copy command copies files. It remains in the present directory as well, while the move command completely, you can say that it is just like cut, as we use in the Microsoft Word. It cuts the file from here and paste it in the new location, while it can also be used to rename a file to different name. Next is the copy, CP or copy file. It creates a copy of a file or directory. For example, copy file.txt to backup.txt. So this file.txt is copied to content of this file or copied to this one. This file name or this file also remains, and a new file is created with the name backup having the same content. Similarly, cp-r document-backup means it will copy this document folder, including all its content, to this backup folder. Next is the rm or remove file. So it deletes files or directory. It is irreversible, means you cannot retrieve the deleted files, so it must be used with caution. Example include rm followed by file name. So this will completely delete this file, or rm-r folder. So this -r flag means that it will delete this directory as well as all the content inside this directory or folder. Next is the chmod, or means change mode or change file permission. So this modifies read, write, and execute permissions for files and directory. Example include chmod 755 followed by the file name, which is script.sh. So what does this number mean? It means that the owner can read, write, and execute. So this belongs to the owner. These are owner permission, and others can read, write. The second one are, first one is the owner. The the second digit, it shows the group permissions, and the third one shows the other user permissions. So the 7 has all the permission of read, write, execute. 5 has the permission of read, write. So this is how you change the permission of the files. Next is the change ownership, or CHOWN. So this changes the file ownership. Changes file owner and or group owner. For example, sudo change ownership Alex users file text. So what does this mean? This means that this file.txt ownership has been changed using this command. So grep command is used to search text in files. It searches for patterns in files or output. For example, grep error log file.txt. So this command will look for error words in this log file.txt file. Find is used to locate files. It searches for files and directories based on name, size, type, etc. For example, find /home/lx dash name.txt. What does this mean? This means that this command will try to find all the files that have .txt extension. Here, steric means that any file name having the txt extension. File system management. So FSCK, file system consistency check. So this command is used to check and repair Linux file systems. It is helpful after improper shutdowns or disk corruption. Example include sudo fsck/dev/sda1. So this will check this drive for errors or corruption. Next is mount. So this mount command attaches a file system like USB drive, ISO, or network share to a directory so it can be accessed. For example, sudo mount /dev/sdb1 mount USB. So this command will mount this USB to this directory. You can, the unmount is opposite, so it will unmount the device from the directory. Administrative tools, and the first one is the SU substitute user. So this switch is using this command you can switch to another user account commonly root user or super user. For example, when you use this command SU space dash, it switches to root account. Of course, it will ask for the password. Sudo is super user do. So this executes a command with elevated or super user or root privileges without logging in as root. So it is safer than SU because it requires your own password and logs actions. For example, sudo apt update. Package management. So these commands are used to install, update, and remove software. So apt-debian/ubuntu package manager. For example, sudo apt install Firefox. So this command will install the Firefox application. dnf-fedora/red hat package manager. So this dnf command, it is for red hat and can be used to update the packages. It can be used as such. Next are some network commands, and these are used to test, configure, and troubleshoot networking. And the first command is IP show, which first command is IP command, which can be used to show, manage IP addresses, routes, and interfaces. For example, IP address show, it will show the IP address of the system. Next is the popular ping command, which can be used to test connectivity to a host. For example, ping google.com, as we have used it over here. And next is the curl, which can be used to fetch data from a URL that is HTTP or FTP URL. For example, curl https example.com. So this will retrieve the data from this URL header, such as we can see over here. Next is dig. So dig command is used to query DNS records for troubleshooting, and an example include dig openai.com or dig geeks.org. So it will give you the IP address for your queried host name or URL. Next is trace route. Again, it shows the path packets take to reach a destination. Example include traceroute example.com. So in Windows, it was trace RT. Here it is trace route. So remember this distinction. Some informational commands. So these commands are used, and these commands It can be used to view documentation, read files, and monitor system status. First one is the man or manual. So it displays the manual pages for command. Example is man ls. So this command will show documentation on how the ls command works. So here we have used this command and it shows that the ls command simply lists directory content. Next is the cat command which prints the content of a file to the terminal. Example, cat file.txt displays the file's content. Here we have used this command. We have also used some flags with it to sort it. So it has printed the content of this veg.txt file, but it has also sorted in alphabetic order. So next is top. So top command shows real-time view of system processes and resource usage. For example, running top shows CPU and memory usage and running tasks as we have used over here. So the next command is the ps command which displays information about currently running processes. For example, ps aux lists all the processes with detail. Here we can see that we have run the ps command and it shows us the currently running processes. Next is the du command or disk usage command which shows the disk usage of files and directories. For example, du-h/home displays the size of files and folders in human readable format. And next is the df command which displays the file system disk space usage. For example, df-h shows free and use space on mounted file system as we can see over here. So coming over to the text editor, and the most popular text editor in Linux is the Nano, which is a simple beginner-friendly text editor. Here the Nano text editor is in action. Now coming over to some common configuration files, and these configuration files are almost all in the /etc directory. First one is the /etc/password file, which stores user accounts information. Remember, it does not store passwords. Passwords are stored in /etc/shadow. It stores password in encrypted format, or you can say it's stored password hashes. Next is etc host, which maps the host name to their IP addresses. /etc fs tab, which defines file system to mount at boot. And next is /etcresolve.conf, which can be used to configure your DNS servers. So some OS components, systemd, which is a system and service manager for booting and managing processes. Kernel is the core of the operating system and it manages hardware and processes. And bootloader loads the kernel, for example, grub. Root account is the super user account with unrestricted privileges, which can be used for administration and system level changes. Objective 1.10, given a scenario, install application according to requirements. And some system consideration for application. First one is the 32-bit versus 64-bit dependent application requirement. So a 64-bit operating system can usually run both 32-bit as well as 64-bit application, while a 32-bit operating system can only run 32-bit application. So remember this point. So always check the application installer version before installation whether the application is for 32-bit OS or 64-bit OS. Dedicated versus integrated graphic card. So dedicated GPU is needed for applications like CAD, video editing, and gaming, such as this one. So this is a dedicated GPU. Integrated GPU is sufficient for light workloads like word processing or web browsing. Video random access memory or VRAM requirements. So graphic intensive applications, for example, Adobe Premiere or 3D rendering software need more VRAM. Insufficient VRAM may lead to lag or inability to launch these applications. RAM requirements, so applications specify minimum and recommended RAM for their operation. For example, a web browser may need 4 GB of minimum RAM, but 8 plus GB is better for performance. Central processing or CPU requirements. So some applications require multi-core CPUs or certain clock speeds. For example, virtualization software such as VMware and VirtualBox benefits from multi-core CPUs with virtualization extensions enabled. External hardware tokens. So some applications, for example, security software, VPN clients, or digital licensing system require USB tokens, smart cards, or dongles for authentication. Storage requirements. So applications may require free space on the system drive for installation and temporary files. For example, a game might need 100 GB of space, while an office suite might only need 5 GB of storage. Application to OS compatibility. So some application only support specific OS version. For example, an application may support Windows 10 plus, such as Windows 10 and 11, macOS Ventura Plus version, and specific Linux distros. Installing an unsupported OS, installing application on unsupported operating system version may cause errors or missing some functionalities. Physical media versus the mountable ISO file. So physical media where applications are distributed on physical media like CDs, DVD, or USB drives. So it is less common today, but still used for enterprise software or offline environment. Mountable ISO file is an ISO image that can be downloaded and mounted virtually, simulating a physical disk. It saves time and does not require physical hardware and is often used for OS installation or other large applications. Downloadable package. So some software downloaded directly from the internet, typically through a package manager or vendor site. Example include .deb packages used by Debian or Ubuntu with apt command, and .rpm packages by Fedora and Red Hat with DNF or yum commands. So advantage of these method is that it ensures updates and dependencies are handled automatically when installed from required repositories. What is the image deployment? So some application on entire systems are pre-configured in an image that can be deployed to multiple machines for consistency and standardization. Example include virtual machine image in OVA or OVF format, Docker containers for applications, and disk cloning images for enterprise rollouts. Advantage includes image deployment saves time in large-scale deployment by providing ready-to-use environments. Now, impact consideration for new application. First is the device impact. So new application may require more CPU, RAM, VRAM, or storage. Could slow down existing application or overload older devices and may need drivers or firmware updates. Network impact include applications using cloud services or frequent updates can increase bandwidth usage. High traffic application, for example, video conferencing and streaming may affect other users. And security risks if application communicate with external servers. Some operational impact. So user may need training to use the new application. Workflow changes such as new processing or automation may be required. and possible downtime during the application installation or migration. What are some business impacts? Business impact can improve the application can improve productivity or efficiency if chosen well. Licensing, subscription, and maintenance cost needs to be considered. A risk of data breaches or compliance issue may arise if the application is insecure. And the application may give a competitive advantage if it provides new capabilities to the organization. Objective 1.11, given a scenario, install and configure cloud-based productivity tools. So installing and configuring cloud-based productivity tool, and the first one is the email system. So to install this system, you need to choose a provider, for example, Microsoft 365 Outlook, Google Workspace, Gmail. Then you need to configure DNS records, including MX, SPF, DKIM, DMARC for secure email delivery, creating the user accounts and applying mailbox quotas, enabling security features like multi-factor authentication, spam filtering and encryption, and setting up client access such as Outlook, webmail, or mobile application. Next is the cloud storage. Cloud storage can be utilized by deploying either OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox for business. You need to configure settings so that files are available both offline as well as online. Set folders redirection for documents and desktops if required. Define permission and sharing policies, for example, read only versus edit, and enable version history and recovery options. Next is the some collaboration tool, and the first one is the spreadsheet. So use Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel online. Share with role-based access, view, comment, and edit. Enable real-time co-authoring and configure auto-save to cloud storage. Video conferencing, deploy Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or Google Meet. Configure meeting policies such as recording, screen sharing, and breakout rooms. Set calendar integration with Outlook or Google Calendar, and secure meeting with passwords or waiting rooms. Presentation tools, so provide access to PowerPoint online or Google Slides, enable templates and shared libraries, and configure permissions for team collaboration. Word processing tools, so deploy Microsoft Word online or Google Docs, enable track changes, comments, and collaborative editing, and ensure autosave and backups are turned on. Instant messaging, so use Teams, Slack, or Google Chat. Configure channels and workspaces for departments or projects. Enable file sharing, integration with storage, and compliance retention. And apply DLP, that is data loss prevention policies where needed. Identity synchronization. So the process of ensuring that user identities such as accounts, credentials, and groups are consistent across on-premises system like Active Directory and cloud-based services like Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. Methods include Directory Sync, and Azure AD Connect, Google Cloud Directory Sync. This keeps username and passwords consistent, and single sign-on, which allows user to log in once and access multiple applications securely. Licensing assignments. So licensing assignments are used for allocating proper subscription licensing to users so they can access specific cloud productivity tools. Process include assigning manually per user through the cloud providers and admin console, or it can be automated with groups or policies. For example, if a user joins the sale group, they automatically get CRM and collaboration tool licenses. Some considerations, so ensure that correct license tier is applied, for example, basic versus enterprise plan. Revoke licenses for inactive or departed employees to save cost, and monitor usage to optimize licensing needs. So that's all for this video and domain 1. Please like and subscribe for upcoming videos and the remaining domains. We'll see you soon.